The next presentation is launching products on a global scale. Warta, and sorry, I forgot your name. Jameson. Okay, good.
Good afternoon, everyone. I changed the topic a little bit, so I think we changed this a bit last minute. We're going to talk about Agile Market Research and what we're calling Agile Market Research 2.0 and what we're calling the quick consumer read. That's me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of GutCheck, and got James here. So thank you, James, for being here today to help me out with this. So just a little bit about GutCheck as context for what we're going to talk about today. So we've been out in the market for about 5 years. We're an online platform for doing Agile market research, where we get what we're calling these quick consumer reads whenever our clients need them, as kind of business questions come up. And primarily our clients are the Fortune 2000, so working with many multinational companies. So in 2012, we started to see our clients, some of our more progressive clients, using us in this very progressive, what I'll call kind of a quick and iterative way that to us felt a lot like Agile software development, which is a practice we use internally to develop our software. And the thing about Agile software development is it's been out in the market for about 20 plus years now. Probably 80% of the projects that are conducted in software development use Agile. And the reason why is that those projects tend to deliver more quickly, and they tend to be as high quality, if not better. So we lifted some of those concepts from Agile and started to deliver them within our methodologies and also our marketing. And we started to talk about it in the end of 2012, and it was met with a bit of a collective yawn, to be honest with you. And if I would have violated the rules here and had this video, you would have gotten a good laugh, but I play by the rules. And anyway, this is, how many people saw the BMW spot on the Super Bowl? Not a large show of hands. It was damn funny. It really was. But anyway, this spot was Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel back in 1994 on the Today Show. And they were talking about the internet. And they were talking about, what's this @ thing? What's this .com thing? And when we first started talking about Agile market research, it was a bit of the same thing. Fast forward to 2015, and I think the world is dramatically different for Agile market research. If you go on Google now, it's actually over 3 million hits you would find for Agile market research. So certainly trending in the right direction. I think a more important thing is a lot of the major providers out there, market research, like Kantar, are starting to develop more kind of Agile toolkits and practices. I know Jeff and Jeremy from Lieberman have some really cool stuff they were talking to me about last night that they're very Agile in nature. So there's a lot more suppliers getting into the mix here. And I think the reason why is pretty academic. It's because clients are asking for it. More and more clients are issuing RFPs where they're looking for Agile solution providers. So with that as context, GutCheck did a branding and messaging study this year. It took us about 3 months to do. We hired an outside consultant to help us with it, where they interviewed over 25 of our clients to really understand where Agile is in the mind of our clients and how we're delivering against it. So I'm going to talk about some of those findings. So the first thing that came up was kind of when folks are using research and when they're using Agile, then there's really 2 states. One are really kind of planned or scheduled events, which I'm going to talk about as the happy path. And the happy path is also a software development term, and it's where the user uses the software exactly how it's designed. There's no exceptions, there's no errors, and we kind of know the outcome beforehand. So extrapolating this to a market research process and new product development, we launched the project. We have a great ideation session, a number of wonderful ideas come out of it. The team is strongly aligned around the strongest concept. There's no disagreement. The concept designer comes in, writes some brilliant concepts. The benefits pop out, reason to believe, really clear. Passes validation on the first attempt, and then it's all on time and on budget. And that certainly happens many times, and Agile can play a spot in this in terms of providing some good directional feedback, oftentimes before a validation. But really the finding that I thought was the most interesting and wasn't really obvious to us at the time was that when Agile is getting adopted within the enterprise, it tends to be this more unplanned path. And it's a path where a lot of unscheduled questions come up. You know, they're questions we couldn't have foreseen before the project had started. Some examples of that, concepts don't pass validation and we don't know why. You know, there's some diagnostics in the validation test, but it's not giving the depth of diagnostics we need to modify things. You know, further, and we've seen this actually happen before, a senior executive comes in at the 11th hour and has a new concept that they want to throw in. I'm sure that's never happened to anybody in the room here. Or, you know, asks a question about the initiative that needs to be answered in a quick period of time. And before now, a lot of the methods and tools that are out there just haven't been conducive to answering those questions. And then finally, we get it out in the market, and the sales data just isn't all that great. It's not as great as the volumetric forecast that we had. So these are all areas where these Agile and these quick consumer reads can really play an important part in where they're getting adopted in the enterprise. So what is a quick consumer read? You know, I think the way I would think about it is if you think about the 50-page report that we got back from our messaging and branding consultant, that's a pretty definitive document in terms of the recommendations and the findings going forward. You know, at the other end of the spectrum, there's some great DIY tools that are out there where, you know, they're providing some really good data collection tools and providing some good analytics on the back end. And I think quick consumer reads kind of fall in the middle, where it's more directional in nature, it's full service in nature, so it's not only providing you data acquisition, but also doing some analysis in the reporting, but it's more directional than definitive in nature. In terms of what quick looks like here, I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Jan's Vogt over here, who's the fastest cyclist ever, that's quick versus, and his bike is certainly quick versus the penny farthing over here. As it relates to Agile and this quick consumer read, quick here is fast enough that it doesn't slow down the initiative that it was meant to enable. And that's usually measured in days, sometimes hours. If something needs to be turned around really quick, but certainly not weeks or months. I want you to read this quote really quick. So the consumer read's a little more nuanced. So the consumer part of this is pretty straightforward. It's your consumer. It's the consumer that you've identified through your segmentation study, and it's that consumer on a global basis. The read part of this has this full service tint to it. We started out as a do-it-yourself firm, but this was a quote, or actually an email that a client of mine sent to me in the early days. I was looking for feedback on our platform, and this person told me that she didn't have time to get back because she was in a meeting, and then she had that post-meeting meeting that was urgent to get to. So it's pretty clear that our clients are looking for a solution where they're not only getting kind of that quick Agile tool that they're looking for, but also somebody to do the flexible design, to program the study, and then to do the analysis and the reporting on the back end. You know, to deliver on this quick consumer read, you needed a couple of things we found. You need a technology platform, but the technology platform isn't sufficient. You know, we've got some patent pending technology that allows us to go out and get consumers in a very quick and specific way. but without the kind of a services team that's kind of wrapped around that and very integrated with that solution, we wouldn't be able to really provide that quick read that our clients are looking for. So that's the platform, and a little bit of background on Agile in the quick consumer read. Now James is going to talk about a real life example of what that looks like.
Yeah, so have we switched the slides? Oh, there we go.
Just
so I'm not going to go into too many details, but Matt asked me to give you a bit of a real world example of how I've used this data in the past. I think we're now going to look at probably the most boring slide you've ever seen in this conference. But you're lucky that I'm not going to present it. I'm just going to tell you a story. This is something that's happened to me from time to time, and I guess if you're working client side, it might have happened to you as well. I just presented a big study looking at lots of needs of different consumer groups, looking at what sort of information they needed, how they needed to see that information, etc. And a fresh, new, bright-eyed junior marketing manager came up to me afterwards and said, "James, I need to sit down and ask you a few more questions about this." And this guy had a lot of specific questions about a very specific subgroup of the research that we'd done. And actually, when we drilled into it, we realized, hey, we actually don't know exactly what these consumers are after. And the guy was putting together a platform which would deliver us a different set of information specific to different consumer needs. So as we're having the conversation, the guy sits me down and says, well, we don't know this, so how can we find out exactly what this subset of consumers actually want from us on this platform? My answer was, okay, I can find out for you, but what sort of budget do you have? Now, being a junior marketing manager, he, of course, had very little budget. So we talk about different options. You can get an undergraduate to play with a SurveyMonkey or something like that. Then I asked him about timescales. He actually wanted to deliver something and have this platform sort of in development by the following week. So challenging. Usually, I would just spend another 5 minutes, make a guess at what that consumer might want, and then move ahead. But fortunately, I have something like gut check or other agile methodologies in the back pocket. So what I was able to do working with Matt was to have an hour's conversation or so talking to actual researchers, so we can quite quickly get the requirements down, and then within, 8 days there? Yeah, a week or 2 weeks, we were able to get an answer. And it wasn't the sort of answer where you're playing around with Excel or whatever. It was just all the guy wanted. This is what the consumers are after, and this is how to deliver it. And it gave us both the confidence that we're not just running with our guts entirely, that we have engaged with this specific customer group, and we are delivering something that at least some of them actually want. So the key learnings from that project, I won't be too specific, but there was an opportunity for a one-stop shop on this particular platform. Many different disparate sources of information that we had an opportunity to bring together. It would bring a focal point for this particular group of customers. We were also able to further delineate the different specific requirements from this very specific specialized group. And we also realized that we needed to certify some of the information, so we need to also link through to professional bodies and accreditation to lend that information some credibility. So those are 3 points that certainly weren't in the large consumer study we had originally, and definitely wouldn't have resulted from me and the junior marketing manager just going with our gut. So, yeah, in summary, the two things I was happy about is, number one, the marketing manager himself is happy. He's got the confidence to go ahead. And for me, this is now going to be something that I've always got in my back pocket in case I, again, have to make a really difficult call to a crucial group of customers in such a short time and with extremely limited budget. Back to you,
awesome. Thank you, James. So just quickly wrapping up and just, again, some highlights from what we found in our branding and messaging study. One, these quick reads are kind of meant not only for kind of scheduled events that we were talking about earlier, but again, the entree is really in moments like James was referring to, these moments that just come up where usually you would have gone with your gut, but you can get a consumer read now to move forward and get unstuck with a fair amount of confidence. The other thing that I'll say about Agile is that I think there's going to be many flavors of Agile. Our flavor happens to be this quick consumer read. I know Stephen Phillips is going to chat tomorrow, and I think they have a real cool approach to Agile that's different than ours. And so I think there's going to be many different flavors of this, but we're more kind of a technology-enabled service relative to Agile. And then the last thing that clients were really looking for was something that could expand on a global basis. It's not obviously enough to be in one country. For multinational clients, they need something that will scale. And not only from a data acquisition standpoint, but also from somebody that can understand the cultural nuance from country to country, and not only in the design, but the analysis and the reporting on the back end. So those are some of the key findings, and I think a great example of Agile in practice. And thank you.
Questions at this moment in time? Please phrase the house you belong to. No? Okay. Originally you said you want to do it on a global scale. What problems do you envision when you do it on a global scale?
Yeah, it's just, consistencies market to market. It's just, the variability market to market in terms of recruiting panelists, the behavior of those panelists from market to market. It's just, really getting in there, doing a lot of good beta testing in there to understand kind of those differences, and then weaving that into the design of the study.
Yeah. You presented the gut feeling that that's really fast. Isn't that the standard of the future? Are there clients who accept more than a week?
I think it goes back to some of Eric's comments. It's not an either or. I mean, there's times you're making big bets, and you're going to take weeks to get things done. And in that case, Agile can be kind of a useful supplement to the process. But sometimes, a little directional feedback is all you need. So I don't think it's really kind of an either or.
Does that imply what you're saying, that you cannot deliver solidity in a week?
Excuse me?
Does it imply that you cannot deliver solid research in a week?
I'm not sure I'm implying that. I mean, it kind of depends on what the business objective is and the methodology being used. But I think again, Kantar is a good example of Millward Brown really kind of consolidating and lightening up some of their validation techniques, so you can get validation kind of results in a short period of time.
Great, thank you. Thank you.